Welcome to episode 49 of the Liz McMullen Show. I have a returning guest this evening, Lynn Ames. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Liz. It's a pleasure to be here in chilly November.
Yes. I can see the autumn leaves out my window. No longer possible because I don't live in Hoboken anymore. I live on the Jersey Shore, so if I peek out, there's going to be conifers and rocks because we can't have lawn because, sand is not for lawns.
Yeah.
So we are going to be focusing on two books for this episode, All That Lies Within and Above Reproach. Do you have a preference on which one we'll start on?
It's your call. It's your show. You're in charge. I empower you.
Thank you for empowering me, because there's one thing that ties the two of them together that I'm interested in is the archangels, ascended masters, and guides.
Archangels, ascended masters, and other assorted metaphysical stuff.
Exactly. Where the heck is that coming from?
Where the heck is it coming from?
I don't know. I studied mythology when I was in college. That's not the question, but the question is, I gather that it must mean a lot to you from a personal standpoint, and I've seen meditation and the metaphysical show up in your writing, so I was curious as to where did that come from for you?
It comes from me. In addition to my day job, if you will. All life melds together, and there are these disparate pieces of me that really aren't all that disparate, I suppose, in the end. And so more and more I'm combining myself, my lives. I'm a lifelong clairvoyant. I actually am a certified angel therapy practitioner by Dr. Doreen Virtue, who is the foremost, in my mind, angel expert in the world. And I've had the great good fortune to study with her for quite some time and get certified. I actually am a psychic. I'm a medium. I talk to angels all the time. I deal with angels all the time on a regular basis. And I'm a great believer in the fact that we can educate and entertain at the same time. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I don't think they should be mutually exclusive. And so I find more and more that my worlds are crossing a little bit, and I'm introducing people to interesting concepts and ideas. They may buy in, they may not. I mean, when I created some of these characters, and these are not the first metaphysical characters I created, by the way. I created in a novella called In a Flash that exists in an anthology collection called Outsiders. I created a character, Yazi Begay, who is Native American Navajo, who also has spiritual qualities, as does Tristan, going all the way back to the value of valor and one love. So it's a long time theme with me, but I am getting deeper and deeper into it in my work. Sedona Ramos takes us in a whole new direction, and Dara takes us there a little bit in All That Lies Within. Sedona Ramos in Above Reproach takes us there as well. It's, I find that more and more people are interested in this kind of stuff. And my feeling when I created these characters was, look, people are either going to get it and they need to hear it, or they're just going to think these are really quirky characters. And that's okay with me too. I don't mind. But it will, in any event, make them think about things. I like to write things that make people think.
Yes. I agree. And actually, one of the things that I believe you do well is internal voice. And for example, when the character in All That Lies Within, when Rebecca is, going to give somebody a fake smile, you don't say that she's going to be giving a fake smile. She says, I'm going to be giving my most inauthentic smile.
Yeah.
Which was specific to the voice of that particular character, which I thought was really neat.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I'm opening my iPad to see if I can find. There's this other part, and it's also from what lies, All That Lies Within, and it's about the perspective of a young child, and the young child is Dara.
Yeah.
And I have found it.
There it is.
I have found it magically.
Bookmarked on your iPad, no doubt.
It is. It's highlighted and marked.
Oh, you are such a good geek.
Yes, I am. I was ready. Okay, so I'm actually going to read it's a short paragraph.
I love having things read back to me.
I wonder how authors feel like that, but I keep quotes.
Like it.
Okay. Little Dara held tightly to her mother's hand. The room was packed with people, all dressed in black, many of them holding handkerchiefs and blowing their noses. She peeked around her mother's dress. Dara spied her uncle, Charlie, and her Aunt Charlotte and her older cousin, Georgia, and her best friend, Tessa. Just with them was a big, shiny black box her mother called a casket. And I was like, I never even think about, like, as children use language and learn language. And I was like, the shiny black box my mother called a casket. And I was like, that kind of dates the child and how old and what level of understanding they have. And I felt like I was really in the moment because of those kind of details.
Well, very cool. I mean, yes. I mean, if you think back to when you were a kid, and think about what your perception was of the world. It's not what it is now. So how would you look at it? And you sort of have to go back and channel that and figure it out.
I agree because, when I was a little girl, my father used to call me like Allie of the Knife, which is from Dune, because I was a very precocious little child, and I was like a little adult.
Shocked by that.
What happened?
I'm shocked by that.
Shocker. And
Shocked,
so when I was at funerals, I'd be going around and comforting all the adults, like giving them hugs and, trying to help them with their feelings and say nice things about, like, the person who had passed. This is at wakes and stuff like that.
My goodness, what a cool kid you were.
I was just making sure everybody was okay. And yeah, and this is actually the next paragraph of what I just read, and this is the same thing. And it's also about perspective. Everyone who came in stopped by the box and then came to kiss her mother on the cheek and cry. Dara thought it an odd ritual. And I was like, I guess it is. Looking at a box. It's like looking at a box, coming over, crying, giving you a kiss on the cheek, and then moving on. But my all-time favorite part of that scene was where she sees her grandfather, who's alternately giving looks of approval or reproach. And I was just like, that is awesome. Because I bet there are people at funerals that are like, Grandpa said that one guy was a bastard, which was like an unsanctimonious bastard.
What he was saying was he was a sanctimonious son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. Yes, there we go. There we go.
He was a sanctimonious son of a bitch. Although, your 6-year-old self wouldn't know what a sanctimonious son of a bitch was. Hopefully, you wouldn't know what a sanctimonious son of a bitch was. Well,
with the multisyllabic words, when you're younger, not necessarily, like when you're hearing something you're unfamiliar with, and this is in terms of language, you're approximating when you're repeating. So she was approximating what she heard because she didn't know those words, but this is all very indicative of the age of that child, and that's what I really liked about. I like about your work, even though it's considered popular fiction. I really think you have a good handle on the craft in terms of the voice and how a particular character would think or perceive or feel. And it's also very tricky to get the metaphysical and mythology and religion into a story that people can latch onto. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but...
Yeah, the challenge is not to make it preachy.
Yeah, preachy or hokey or cutesy.
Or boring.
Boring is terrible. Boring
would be horrible.
Because I'm actually on not exactly the same page as you, about spirituality and the layers of experience and being and whatnot. So I was on board with you, but what I liked was even if I were not in reading these two books, I would be able to deal with reading it. I wouldn't be like, oh God, I'm closing this book because this is just ridiculous. Because people, can have very strong feelings about what they're reading, but there is still a lot in there. And I felt that in Above Reproach, a lot of the gravitas that was lent to Sedona was by individuals that others would easily trust themselves, and incrementally there were things that she said and did, things that she was aware of, and it was so accurate that the people in the mission started to make decisions according to what her intuition was. And that's where you kind of built the gravitas and the believability factor in there, rather than people of whole cloth suddenly deciding that, magically, that makes sense,
Yeah, right. Well, would you trust that way? No, I wouldn't either.
No.
Absolutely not. And to me, one of the great things and one of the most important things is that it has to be authentic. I don't care what you're writing. It has to be authentic. And if it isn't authentic, you're right. I mean, people are going to close the book. They're going to walk away. You lose your audience, because anytime a reader gets their head out of the story, you've lost them now.
Exactly.
My aim is always to keep the reader invested and in the middle of the story.
Exactly, because if you pop them out, they might leave.
Well, they might leave, but not only might they leave, but you lose credibility.
True. And, I remember, and this is not about your stuff or anybody's stuff that I'm actually going to pull names on, but I see a lot of stuff, I read a lot of material, and my feeling is, if I have to work to finish your book, if I have to keep on fighting myself and force myself to finish your book, there's a problem there. And, because I beta read some stuff too, and I'm like, if you were doing something, maybe if it's like grammar or whatever, it may be, if I keep on popping out of the story, I will give up, and I'm sticking with it longer because I'm trying to help. But readers will just drop the book, and they will tell people, it's not worth your time. So getting it right is really important.
Well, it's critical to me in every respect. And I mean, it's about interest level. It's about believability and plausibility and possibilities. I'm sure you know, because you've read, seems like, a lot of my work.
Yes, and magically, I've actually read a lot more of yours, but I don't directly.
I didn't know that, but that's great. I'm really grateful for it. But, to me, especially when you're writing thrillers like Above Reproach, it's true in romances, it is. But, I'm always, when people say things to me like, it's fiction, make it up, I cringe, because the best fiction to me is all based in reality. It has to be possible. It has to be plausible in order to really invest a reader.
Exactly.
Unless you're totally into, unless you're talking sci-fi or something where, you can just like totally make stuff up. But
even still, there has to be a realm of plausibility, and
yes, there has to be a grounding. There has to be something you can hold on to.
It's kind of like in these spy stuff, or even in other stories where somebody knows that they have to lie, that they're told to stick as close to the truth as possible.
Always.
So.
Always. Because the truth is easier to remember. Which takes us someplace I imagine you're going to go at some point. But I'm going to hijack you just a little bit and take you there right now. Because it works as a segue, and that gets into research.
Okay.
Particularly... I research everything, romances, thrillers, it doesn't matter. If you're reading a book of mine, please know that I have done my homework. I may get something wrong accidentally, but it isn't because I didn't do my homework. What I do is I collect people. I collect people the way people collect trading cards, or the way we used to collect trading cards and marbles when I was a kid anyway. I'm older than you, but...
I liked marbles. And I like trading cards, partially because they were cool and partially because they smelled like the bubble gum that came with the...
exactly. Exactly. The stale bubble gum.
The stale bubble gum, but it smelled great.
Yeah, and they also made, great noise in the spokes of your tires for your bicycle. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. There you go. And do we have sound effects with the show?
No, they're really homegrown.
Sound effects. I think we should,
honk, whatever. I do have a question for you that actually relates to all that lies within that and research, whatnot. But what I'd like to do first is I'd like you to do a synopsis of all the lies.
Girl.
Start it again.
Girl meets girl.
Girl meets girl.
Don't they all? Oh, okay. Anyway. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go ahead. Give us a little synopsis of all that lies within, and then I have questions for you relating to the structure of it.
Okay, sure. The synopsis for the book goes like this. How far would you go to hide who you really are inside? And what do you do when you find the one person from whom hiding your true self isn't an option? Glamorous movie star Dara Thomas has it all. An Oscar nomination, dozens of magazine covers proclaiming her the sexiest woman alive, and people of both sexes clamoring for her attention. She also has a carefully guarded secret life. As Constance Darrow, Dara writes Pulitzer Prize-winning fiction, an outlet that allows her to be so much more than just a pretty face. Rebecca Minton is a professor of American literature in love with the work of the mysterious, reclusive author Constance Darrow, with whom she strikes up a correspondence. A chance phrase in a letter leads her to a startling conclusion about the author. What happens next will change the course of both of their lives forever. That is the basis, or the bare bones of all that lies within, if you will. It's based on a poem that I wrote in June of 2012. And I've never written a book before that was based on a poem that I'd written. But, there's a first time for everything. And this was my first time with that.
Would you consider, because you say you do tons and tons of research, would you consider yourself a planner?
No, I'm a pantser.
Really?
Oh, I'm a big-time pantser.
Oh, my God. Well, that ruins all of my questions.
Strike page 6, strike page 10, off with page 11's head.
So even if you don't do it in an outlining sense.
No. I know what I need to know. Mm-hmm. I do all the research before I sit down to write.
Okay. So my question is relating to pacing and the unfolding of the story. The question, when to stop, have a dream, have a flashback, some introspection. And what I thought was interesting was how you chose to kind of go back and forth between the lives of Rebecca and Dara separately, and then over time show how their lives start to intersect. And so if you're a pantser, because I thought that it would take kind of planning to pace and figure out how each thing unfolds.
No, it's organic for me. Mm-hmm. I don't plan that out at all. I don't plan the pacing. I do what feels right to me. And, the way I write, in essence, I become the characters, each and every one of them, which makes me schizophrenic, I suppose. But I become each character. I am each character. And so, to me, I write it the way I feel it unfolding. So it's like it's happening to me at the same time. Oh. It's happening to the characters, and it's happening to the readers at the same time it's happening to the characters, because it's happening to all of us at the same time.
Because I thought it was interesting, on the heels of the grammar school flashback for Dana, then you had the high school reunion. Dara.
Yeah,
then we had the high school reunion for Rebecca.
Because
to me, I thought it was a really cool segue connection, because these are representations of what happened to them in childhood that shaped them as adults. And what I found interesting, and because I thought, in my head, I still thought that you planned it. In my head, I'm like, I can see how with the story within the story is Constance Darrow writes this Pulitzer Prize winning novel. And what I find interesting is that I found parallels from the two characters in like Celeste and what was the other character's name? Harold. And
we're talking about the characters who were in the literary
in the literary
book. The book within a book.
The book within a book. So it's, even though they were very different individuals who had different things to shape their lives, they realized that they have a lot in common. And that they both can kind of help each other, I guess, live a better life, whatever. And so I was thinking about Rebecca and Dara have very different lives and different things that shape them into the human beings that they are today. And even though they're kind of shimmying closer and closer together, I felt that there was a parallel between those two relationships.
Thank you for understanding that there are many layers to the book. A lot of people literary types look down their nose at what they call genre fiction, which is what a lesbian contemporary romance would be considered a genre fiction. But there are, I like to think, as many layers in my book as in any literary book. There's a lot of stuff in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad, thank you for recognizing that there are things that are actually done, not quite by accident.
No, I felt,
there's thought that goes into it. And even the fact that I didn't sit down and outline, the intersection of Dara's grammar school memory with Rebecca's high school reunion, that's just an unconscious thing that you do when you're writing, when you know what you're trying to say and when you know what the point is of what you're trying to get across.
So I almost wish, this is, cognitive thing on my part. Like I see things, conceptual things in 3D. It's almost as if I can see a shelf of different thoughts or even circuitry that like connects different ideas together. And I felt that there's a lot of different layers of depth when I was reading the book, and I was like, oh, that's a very interesting, the insecurity and the feelings that Dara felt, and how she had to kind of squelch herself. And then you see Rebecca go to her reunion, and the first person she meets was the huge bully, who of course isn't the dashing jerk that he was in high school. He's like, overweight and lugubrious and disgusting and snide and hitting on Rebecca because she looks very different than she did when she was a student. She was a little heavy set and, was with her nose in a book. And so you have that kind of insecurity things that are coming up without stealing somebody back into a backflash, which sometimes stops the momentum of a story. So
exactly the problem with flashbacks is that they stop this. You can't have anything that stops the story dead. Mm-hmm. Everything has to serve a purpose in the novel. Everything has to move it forward. And I wanted very much to make the point that, there are a lot of things that make people insecure or mm-hmm. make people uncomfortable or can be damaging. And, we all have our own stuff. We all have our own stuff. And in having our own issues, if you will, we all, have to deal with that. And it's the struggle to deal with those things. You may look at someone and think, oh, they live a charmed life, only to figure out that they're really not so different from you in the end at all.
Yeah, with what I thought was really interesting bend on the cliche was Sharon Glastonbury, who was, the homecoming queen and is still quite striking. How some people get it on at reunions or, rekindle things and whatnot.
Don't, but I'm sure they do.
I'm sure it happens. People do it.
I'm sure they do.
They do it. No, but with Sharon, what I thought was really cool was in the same way that Caroline, who's Dara's best friend, shows almost a truer view of somebody rather than how their insecurities color the way that they see themselves. And so even though, Rebecca's hot stuff right now, it turns out that Sharon had the hots for her and thought she was brilliant and intelligent and wanted, had a huge crush on her in high school, which she's, obviously Rebecca's incredulous about, to the point where she's like, Sharon has having sex with her on her bucket list, which I thought was hilarious. And so what I thought was really interesting was the interplay and the flirting between them was an establishment of like the intellect and how intelligent both women were, and that the attraction was not just, hot body to hot body or whatever. It was much more than that. And she saw much more than that in Rebecca, yet Rebecca always was kind of interpreting it in the worst way. Like, oh, you liked my mind? I knew it couldn't have been for my body.
Well, but you see that was part of Rebecca's journey. It was part of, Sharon was actually, although some people will look at her and think that was a throwaway character, not so much. I mean, the whole idea there was to give you a sense that Sharon helps Rebecca to understand herself better.
Exactly.
And see herself differently, which puts her in a better position to deal with what comes later.
And I wonder, because I'm thinking about Dara, I wonder if she believes it's possible to be both brains and beauty. It seems like when she's conceptualizing what being her whole self or completely respected for her mind, it seems like she's kind of slicing off like her body, her persona, and her energy and her vibe. Like it couldn't possibly be integrated for her.
No, I disagree. For Dara, the issue is she's never been able to tell for sure what people want from her. And in her experience, it always has appeared that people only want one thing from her. She's a gorgeous movie star. People only want what they see on the outside without ever bothering to unwrap the package and see what all is on the inside.
Oh, I know. I'm familiar with that. Not just in this character, but as one of the drawbacks for characters who are either celebrities or wealthy or whatever it is.
It's also a drawback in real life, by the way.
No, it is completely a drawback in real life because you never know what people's motivations are.
Well, and that's why she created Constance. She wanted to know that she had some place where she understood that people's motivations were about her mind, her intellect, her work, her innermost thoughts, which is what appeared in the literary fiction. It's what she could let out as Constance. It was her outlet, and nobody knew what she looked like. Mm-hmm. So it was the one place where she could be absolutely sure why people were interested in her. Mm-hmm. And, she needed that because she felt like every place else she went in real life, she wasn't getting that, except with Carolyn.
Yeah, I just feel like she was selling herself short. Not the concept of having, not the concept of having this separate and untainted, and completely about her intellect and thoughts and whatnot. I still feel like she had this level of two-ness that was so separate, and she was very well convinced that she was not lovable.
Well, yeah.
But that she was convinced.
Was her experience.
Exactly. She had one awful, shitty experience, and then the experience of being a celebrity also. But she could be fully integrated and actualized. She just, she had to figure out a way to marry the two.
She needed the right person to show her the way. Mm-hmm. She needed the right person to show her that it was possible to be accepted as all of what she was. Yeah,
Carolyn is a wonderful catalyst character.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked her.
Yeah, I like her because...
Wouldn't we all like to have a friend like that?
Well, I actually have in my notes that both she and Rebecca had a cut the shit friend. Best friend who's like, cut to the quick. You're fucking full of it. What's going on? Fess up. Make it happen.
Well, shouldn't we all have a friend like that in our lives?
Oh yeah. She was very important and as much, but she wasn't, I wouldn't say not omniscient, but like she wasn't perfect, but she had some good instincts and she made choices of almost like she's the mirror, the mirror that doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And also will not let Dara squirm away from possibility.
Yeah.
So I liked her as a character. I thought she was great. And you get a lot from the dialogue between those two characters about the experiences that they had growing up. And also, you had the character that you mentioned in the novella, the Native American, I believe. I can't.
Yazi Begay.
Okay, so she also makes a guest appearance in this book.
Yeah, she and Renee make a guest appearance in this book.
Yes,
and I didn't know they were going to. I mean, they just sort of it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this so works.
Exactly. I was like, wait, this is what I think is really interesting is the way that you've married different characters from completely different series and draw them together. Above Reproach, obviously, you get, one of your favorite twosomes in there, Jay with the impenetrable appetite, and Kate, so astute and politically wise.
And you get three other minor characters from their series as well.
I know. I think it's really cool. I love when authors do this. And it's either, like, it coexists with creating a community that is real that has interlocking segments. So like, let's say you're having one book about, a doctor, like two doctors who, fall in love, whatever, and they work at this university and this is their neighborhood. And then you have another story. This is something that Radcliffe does. And then you have all these other stories that are completely unrelated, but they're still working within the same mythology. So sometimes there'll be like little guest appearances because, of course, they live in New York. Why wouldn't they bump in together? Or they're, in the same university, or they work for the same law firm or whatever. I think that's cool. And I'm sure for your people who are listening right now will be very excited to pick up both books, to have that opportunity to re-experience some of the characters that they care about.
Well, part of the reason you do that, and part of the reason I do that, and I find it interesting, is because people seem to think the characters are real anyway. Mm-hmm. So because they do, and because they're so, and I'm so grateful for the fact that they're so invested in these characters, it is like a community for them. So they sort of put all my books together and think that it's all one big community.
One big happy family.
That's kind of cool.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up, this is back to structure. I'll still ask the question. So my question was, like, when do you put a letter or seeing something on TV, or this isn't in All That Lies Within, seeing somebody in a movie theater or whatever, all these different elements are popping up, and there are different ways to intersect the lives of Rebecca and Dara before they meet face to face. And I know that you live the characters, but how do those kind of decisions get made?
They just sort of happen. Mm-hmm. It's like, as I'm writing, generally speaking, in terms of structure and in terms of plot and form, I know 3 or 4 things that are going to happen in any book before I start writing. Mm-hmm. I know the basic premise. I know 3 or 4 things that are going to happen. I do a lot of research so that I am prepared for the universe that they're going to live in and the things that I need to know for either job-wise or location-wise or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then I just start writing. And as I start to write, things happen. And it becomes more clear to me what the next thing is that's going to happen, and then the next thing that's going to happen. And I usually get to a point, after 10 of these, I have a pretty good rhythm now. Mm-hmm. I usually get to a point where all of a sudden I have this aha moment. I'm like, oh, that's what's going to happen next. And how cool is that? And then if that happens, then this has to happen, and this has to happen, and this has to happen, and this has to happen. Okay. And that's generally the way it gets structured. So it sort of gets structured on the fly as I'm going through it. And sometimes, things happen that that are totally unexpected to me, mm-hmm. completely unexpected when I start writing.
Well, I believe that more so than other authors, what you've mentioned earlier in the interview about having, being clairvoyant and psychic and, a medium. I think that kind of synergistic experience is almost amplified than the everyday panster.
Yeah, that's probably true. A big part of it is, it's like the angels know where I'm going. I just don't know where I'm going. I didn't see that coming. That is so flippin' cool. Thanks for taking me there. I did not see that coming. That's very, very cool. Thank you for that. And then I just keep going. It's like,
I have what could have been a throwaway line in this book, actually, which kind of made me laugh, and I wanted to ask. It's something that Rebecca said, and she said, "What a long, strange day it's been." And in my head, when I read it, it's been a long, what a long, strange trip it's been. Exactly. Which is a Grateful Dead song, by the way.
I know. It's a journey.
So I was reading it, and all of a sudden I started to sing it in my head, and the only change is day to trip, because obviously the Grateful Dead, they got high every once in a while.
Every once in a while. Once in a great while before a concert, they might, or before they made music, they might.
They might occasionally alter their consciousness, but that's just really... This is a comment, actually, a little compliment going on. I felt that there are times, especially with Rebecca and Dara, that there were very cinematic moments. Like when Rebecca appears in the doorway after hearing Dara say that she doesn't want to ever see her or talk to her again.
Right.
And then just like goes off, like bolts, because we learned earlier in the book that she runs.
Right.
She runs and she's
prescient that.
I know. And so like she's running and she's crying and then Dara finally catches up with her because she's tall and those long strides.
Legs, yeah.
And then,
she's also a runner, by the way.
I know, and it's just like, and then the street light illuminated her. I don't know how many street lights there are in LA. But either way, I was just like
lit up, so there you go.
Yeah, so I was like, this spotlighted moment. It was really cinematic and dramatic, and I was like, well, that really fits the tone, and plays with the theme of it being about a celebrity who's an actress.
And interestingly, this book, more than any other book I've written, this book I wrote more like a movie than I wrote it like a book. And it was actually in the editing process that I had to go back in and make it more book-like.
I can see that.
Happened to me before.
Yeah, I could totally see that because for whatever reason, probably because I'm suggestible, I was reading it like a movie. Yeah,
and that's the way I wrote it. And then I had to go back in and say, but you know what? It's not a movie yet.
Yes, it could be.
It's not a movie yet.
Yes.
So you actually need to write the book first.
so there's like another.
Make this into a book.
So I'm circling back just for the comment, and then we're going to switch books. I have one of my notes is actually relating to what I talked about earlier, where you have a very good sense of voice for the characters when they're having internal thoughts and whatnot. And it was in the scene where Sharon is with Rebecca in a hotel room, and she didn't realize that she doesn't know how she got defrocked so fast. And I'm like, defrocked is not a word everybody would use, but it is something that a professor might use, or somebody who's Catholic.
Oh, no, she's not Catholic. I mean, I never talk about religion. You hardly ever.
Oh, no, but...
we talk about religion in books because I'm not a religious person.
Oh, I know, but being defrocked...
Religion, they are not the same thing.
No, but being defrocked is actually referring to...
it's not an everyday word.
Well, no, it's something that's...
word, but the thing to me, first of all, I believe in expanding language, and I don't believe in dumbing down our work for anybody. Look up a word if you don't know it. I'm not going to put 20 in a row so that you can't figure it out. But, but to me, language is important. Language has to befit the characters. In this case, she's a professor. You expect her to speak with intelligence and to be articulate. It would not make sense if she was not.
Of course not.
Right? So the language that she uses has to be just like you mentioned earlier, the 6-year-old perspective of the casket and what that was and what that looked like and what an odd ritual a funeral is, if you look at it from a kid's perspective. The same is true of the language that the characters use. It has to be in keeping with who the characters are and what they do. Otherwise, again, you lose credibility and it doesn't flow right. It doesn't make sense to you. I want you to get lost in the characters and lost in the book. I want you to believe that they're alive. I want them to be alive for you. And in order to make that happen, I have to make them alive. And part of making them alive is making them real. And if a professor was standing in front of you, she would certainly use the word defrocked.
Because, defrocked first, I think about, a priest who's been kicked out of the church, which is...
Now we know where you come from. That's not one of this...
No, I know. No, I know because, the reason why I mention it, because I know I have a feeling that Celeste and the book that she was, that she was the heroine in, I think that the things that she says kind of comes in line to the way that you think about religion, or not being a religious person, but believing in angels and ascended masters and whatnot.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a lesson.
Yeah.
That was just a little bit of a lesson. And, the ability to write a literary book inside a genre book was just so much fun. I mean, that was just fun to toy with.
Absolutely.
And the moment of panic for me was thinking, oh my God, am I actually going to have to write a literary book inside this book? Oh my God, please say no. I have a headache already just thinking about it.
I thought it was cute that they were pen pals.
Isn't that cute that they were pen
Well,
pals?
I mean, using the term pen pals, nobody even thinks of that anymore.
No, it's so old-fashioned, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. I remember when I was in college, I actually had pen pals and intentionally did things through paper rather than electronically.
Very cool.
Because I wanted the tactile. I wanted to feel it. So we're going to switch gears from all the glitz glamour of being a Pulitzer Prize writer to Above Reproach. How did you get the idea for this particular book?
This is interesting. Above Reproach is a thriller. And as is true pretty much with all my thrillers and most of my books in general, it usually starts for me with the question, what if? I see something, I hear something, I know about something, and it starts me thinking. And I start to think about, well, what if that didn't happen just that way? Or what if something, else is really true? What if you're not seeing the whole picture? So that book actually arose out of a teeny little 2-paragraph story I saw on MSNBC in their archives about this place called Tuwaitha, which was essentially a raw uranium production facility 12 miles outside of Baghdad. And in real life, we discovered this place back during the Gulf War with the first Bush. And we had been guarding it for 17 years until the shrub came along, as I call him, which is George W. Bush. For those of you who haven't figured out, he's not big enough to be a bush, so he was a shrub.
Sorry.
Sorry. Just in case anybody didn't understand where I was going with that. It doesn't understand my politics. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so back in 2008, we made the decision to move the raw uranium, which is called yellow cake, to move the material. This is in real life. We moved that material from 12 miles outside of Baghdad to Canada, to the facility that would convert it into other things, useful things, not war-like things. And I saw this paragraph and I thought, oh my goodness, what would happen if some of that actually went missing? What would have happened if it went missing? Who would want it to go missing? Why would they want it to go missing? And what's the end game? And so my mind just starts working overtime, thinking about these things and thinking what the possibilities could be. And then, in the course of the book, I take you through all the possibilities.
I know. You know what I hate most about having to review this book? Is all the cool shit is spoiler material.
No, there's a lot of cool shit in there.
There really is. There's just so much cool stuff in there. And I'm like, dude, I can't talk about that. That's a spoiler.
Yeah, no, and I can't talk about that. And
no, exactly,
because that I'd have to kill you.
Until in my iPad, because I keep fonts bigger, it's like you don't really know until page 300 or so exactly what the end game is. And the end game, even though I had a notion while reading it, I didn't quite picture it, what was really going on. And I just thought that was interesting. So
I'm glad you didn't.
I know, because I had a notion. I mean, everybody has a notion about energy and whatnot and pipelines and this, that, and the other thing. But the way that it worked out was just completely not exactly what I was I thought was going to happen. And I
surprised you.
Yes, you surprised me, which is
yay.
Which is the goal as a thriller. You don't want people to snooker you out.
Well, you know what? I mean, I've written thrillers in several different ways. In some of them, I have let the reader know everything that is the truth and let the characters find it out along the way. The reader is already in on the story and already knows. Mm-hmm. But then, there are other instances where I've written them where, we all find out together at the same time. And I mean, I like it both. I like, doing it both ways in terms of the structure of it. It's both interesting to me. But
so I have an on-the-fly question to ask you, which occurred to me when I was reading it, because it's not Mission Impossible, but you get that kind of notion, in parts of it where there has to be plausible deniability for the president, which means that he has to be able to say if things go badly, oh, I didn't know that was going on. I was missing.
Well, and that's very true.
No, I know. It's something that it's almost like a mainstay of sorts. But here's my question.
Yeah.
In the interest of maintaining the plausible deniability, how on earth do these people, what did I wrote, where do they get the resources, the cash, flow under the radar, and how do they get reimbursed? Because I'm thinking, they're not getting all these different resources, obviously, directly from the top. I'm like, how do they get the money to bribe these people or get this equipment? Or like, how the hell does that happen?
This is real life, so everything I've written can absolutely happen that way, and often has, and we don't know about it. Mm-hmm. Just so you're aware of it. And
I had a feeling, but that's why I want to ask the question. I'm like, how?
Right. So recognize that I have a background in some of this stuff, and so I actually do know how a lot of this stuff works. And it is absolutely true that he would need to have plausible deniability. He would need to, with an absolute straight face, be able to go out there and say, I do not know the answer to that question. I can tell you that in my career, there have been moments where I have stopped people from talking and left the room so that I would not know the answer to something. And then because I was the spokesperson for the Senate Minority Leader in New York, they would start talking about something, and I would stop the senators, and I would say, stop talking. I'm leaving. Call me back when you're done with this topic. Because I needed to go out and face the press and be able to, with absolute integrity and honesty, say, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how that happened. And it happens in real life all the time. And I could give you a lot of instances where it has happened in real life. I could tell you a lot of things that go on that would probably curl your hair, more than it already is. But in answer to your question, how does that work? There's a whole shadow side to everything, and there are private means of financing things. Those things are financed off the books by black ops operations that come from money that is off the books, that is, not accounted for. There are secret funds that are designed for operations just like that. And, the only people who know about them are those who are in highly classified positions, like the Senate Intelligence Committee, the House Intelligence Committee. They are read into briefings about classified projects that we will never know about. But there's money set aside for those types of projects. And just like there was money there's money set aside for, the drone projects and all of that kind of stuff, and finding Osama bin Laden and all of that. You don't think that, there was a line item in the budget that said, let's go find him and do it this way. It wasn't exactly that way. So there are many safeguards, if you want to call them that, and I think it's kind of ironic to use that term, inside of government that allow for these secret funds to fund projects like that, and that's where the money comes from.
Because I was like, how are they getting, on the fly, things are going bad, something awful happens to Sedona's status, and I'm like, oh my God, so many doors are closing. How the fuck is that going to work? And well, it almost seems like always the answer is not what you were thinking was going to happen.
No, and most often in real life, it's not. In real life, it's not. And I will tell you that in that book, there are pieces in that book that there are many pieces in that book that I got directly from people who've been involved in things like that. And I can't tell you who they are. I can't tell you exactly how they're involved. But, there's a piece in there where there's satellite blocking technology on the ground, right?
Yes, I remember that.
Right? Have you ever seen anybody talk about that anywhere?
No.
From the ground? Well, let me tell you something. It not only does that technology exist, but the person who helped me with that is the person who invented the technology.
Ah.
And it's sort of an interesting story. He's a good friend of mine. I call him Stealth Man.
Not
When
secret
I
agent
meet him,
man.
I simply send out an SOS, and I never know where he is. Excuse me. I never know where he is when he gets back to me, and I don't ask him where he is, and he doesn't tell me. But that started out with me. There's the scene, if you haven't read it, is the scene where there's a piece of, they task a satellite to try to get a look at this place, Tuatha. And they're blocked on the ground in Tuatha by somebody and tracked back. And, as far as they know, that's not possible. And as far as most of the world knows, in real life, that's not possible. But I'm here to tell you that it is. And so I was worried about it because I made that shit up at first, right? I made that up, and I thought, well, here's the one thing I really need to have this work, and nobody's going to know the difference because, nobody knows. And then I called my guy, and I said to him, look, I'm really worried about this one piece because you know how I'm a stickler for being accurate and authentic. And I'm freaking a little bit here because, this is something I just made up. And he's laughing on the other end of the line. He's laughing at me. I'm like, why are you laughing at me? He said, I'm laughing at you because it's true. And I said, what do you mean it's true? He said, I invented it 30 years ago. He said, and he told me to go Google something, and I will not tell you what it was, but he told me to go Google something and see what happened. He said, I promise you, Homeland Security will not show up at your door. Google this and see what happens. And I did. And exactly what I said happened in the book happened.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, oh my God, it really does exist. You're really telling me the truth. He says, of course, I always tell you the truth. And I said, yeah, I know you do. It's one of the reasons I, keep you around.
Do you think, out of curiosity, do you think that that's something that was brought to your attention or something that was a part of your imagination? From a spiritual standpoint, to know.
Yeah, from a metaphysical standpoint, you mean to the ancient?
Yeah, because with Sedona, there's.
I don't know. It's entirely possible that they were giving it to me, and I just didn't recognize that it was coming from them. That happens sometimes, and after the fact, I sort of go back and I say, that was very slick. The way you did that was slick. And it may well be that was one of those slick moments where, they were chuckling at me, knowing full well that I was writing the truth, and they gave it to me because they knew it was the truth, and they knew that I would be able to verify it because they knew I was freaking because I was stuck there.
See?
That is entirely possible now that you mention it.
Also, because this is also a cultural thing just from my generation. When Sedona was actively asking the angels for help, needing crystal clarity, yes. And I was just thinking about Gem and the holograms, where she has Synergy, and when she presses her little earring, then she asks Synergy a question and whatever, and she gets the energy. She gets the answer.
Now there's one that's past well after my time, and I don't know that one. Now I'm going to have to go watch.
Because Gem is truly outrageous. It's truly outrageous.
Gem and the holograms. Is that what
it is? Gem and the holograms. It was a cartoon, and she could. It was pre Hannah Montana crap where you could be the superstar and regular person, and I think she fought crime. But when
the cool thing is that when people when writers create stuff like that, there are so many ways to educate and to get a point across. I mean, I'm doing it in terms of metaphysical stuff here in the middle of these stories, but look at some of the movies you see and some of the cartoons you see. Don't you think? I mean, I bet if I go back and I watch it, I can tell you that was created by someone who was like me. Because they wanted you to it's an easy way to introduce the concepts to people of all ages without hitting them over the head with it.
Blam, 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 blam.
Blam, blam. Yeah, you don't need to hit people over the head with it. Make it entertaining and interesting and fun.
And have it unfold and whatnot. Exactly.
Yeah.
So why did you decide that you wanted to have Vaughn back in action?
I didn't. Actually.
And neither did Vaughn.
I wrote Beyond Instinct. And when I wrote Beyond Instinct, which is the first book in the Mission Classified series, I thought it was a standalone thriller. And the day after I released the book, there were dozens of people saying to me, where's the sequel? And me, I'm sitting here going, sequel? What sequel? There's no sequel. There's no stinking sequel.
There's no crying in baseball.
No, there's no crying in baseball. It's a book, you know? And then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, well, why the heck not? You know, I could so totally see a way to make it happen. And then I saw a larger way to tie the series together, not via one character like Vaughn, but by the basis of what they do for a living. See what I mean?
Yes.
So in the next book, you might not see Vaughn at all. You might see Sedona, you might not see Vaughn, you might see other tangential people who you met in Above Reproach. It would be a little spoiler, but you might see Dex. You know, so it's a spin-off based on the concept rather than based on the characters.
I can see that.
Which is different, very different for me. But
because all these people were drawn together because of their ability to play a particular role on the team.
Exactly, and correspondingly, going forward, that will be the theme that keeps them together. All people are drawn in based on their expertise and based on what the issue is and based on what they know. And it gives me all kinds of flexibility to bring in all kinds of characters that exist or didn't exist before or do exist now from, you know, different series from different places. It's going to be a lot of fun.
No, I can see that working. I'm, you know, when you mentioned people were instantly asking for a sequel, this is something I'm sure many authors feel often is, you know, somebody so much so likes your work that they want the next book and they want it yesterday.
No kidding.
And it's so funny because if you're a reader like me, and I mean before I started doing the show, because now all my reading is for this show. I don't have, you know, there's not enough hours in the day. But I remember, like, if I liked an author, I bought all her books and I read all of them. And still, you know, because if you're a voracious reader like myself or Adrian, who's my webmaster, like, she goes to them so fast. She even reads the acknowledgments, and she told me that I was in the acknowledgments of a book. I was like, shut up! I had no idea, because I would never look in the acknowledgments in the book, you know, because
wow.
I mean, I'll look at the you know, the, what's it called, like the dedication.
Yeah.
I'll read a dedication more often than I'd actually scour acknowledgments.
I often acknowledge the people who've given me a key piece of information or a piece of help. And if they've played a big enough role, I send them a book.
Yeah.
So they know they're in the acknowledgments.
I know. One of the authors I had on the show, Patty Henderson, she writes paranormal horror, and when she was growing up, she was really into The Raven and that particular type of writing. And so whenever I see an image that kind of reminds me of something that she's written or, you know, her taste in literature, I always send her pictures, and she's like, you know, don't be surprised if you see yourself in the acknowledgments, because she saw one picture and she's like, I have to write a story about this picture.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. That's perfect.
I love the concept of synergy, even though I made fun of the character name Synergy. I like a dynamic process in which, you know, a part of caring for other people in addition for caring for their work. Like, I feel like a minister to people's work in a sense with what I do with the show. But you as much as more so your characters, because I hold on to characters really hard and I make believe. I feel like they're real. Like with Linda K. Silva, I'm always talking to her, like, Danica would so have this, you know, or she's like, I think you like this character. I was like, as far as I'm concerned, she's real. So I actually send what would have been a post on Danica's page.
Oh my God.
If she would have one, I send stuff to Linda K. Silva about that character in the Echo series and whatnot. But I like Facebook in some ways because it connects so many different people, and you're able to interact in a way that's very different than you would have face-to-face. Face-to-face, losing that is not great. But, you know, I could be randomly going through something and I was like, oh, I think this is something that you'll care about. I'll put that on your timeline, that kind of stuff.
Right, which thank you for that, by the way.
Oh, you like the angel? I was like, this is perfect.
It worked perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Everybody should have angels on their page, don't you think?
Totally.
But yes, you're right. I mean, people clamor for the next book the day you've finished writing the last one, and it's very, very flattering. It's incredibly flattering, but there's a lot of pressure that goes with
That's a lot of, because honestly, the stuff that you love, I love to read whatnot, or everybody's a reader. Like I had a book giveaway and an author won, and she's like, I should have taken myself out. I said, authors can be fans too. But
generally speaking, you get into writing because you love to read.
Exactly.
The irony of that is you stop reading quite so much because
you're busy writing. No, it is. There are just so many ironies in life. So anyway, I the thing is, the really well written stuff takes time. Like you do a lot of research, and people don't realize that writing the first draft is only the first step. The real work is in the editing and fixing and mending and enhancing. But there's a lot of work involved. Like sometimes it'll take somebody a year or more to write a book.
Will you hate me if I tell you I don't write that way?
No, I won't. Because there are some folks who can write a new book. Like Radcliffe puts out like 3 books in different series in the same year continually. Yeah. I'm like, are you human?
Didn't sleep.
It's like you, and you have your own publishing company. Do you publish other authors or just yourself?
At the moment, I am publishing me, but when I created the company, I created it to give voice to experienced authors who didn't have a voice at the time. And I am, always happy to consider that. At the moment, I'm quite happy. What I wanted to do was to test it out on myself first. Mm-hmm. Because I would never ask someone else to risk their reputation or their work if I didn't do it myself. Mm-hmm. So I tested it on myself, and within 6 months I was profitable, which is pretty much unheard of.
Great. And, there are so many things that go into that as well. Branding, promoting, being...
Well, the actual creation. I mean, there's the creation piece of it, the distribution piece of it, the branding, yes, absolutely, the promotion and the PR that has to go into it. Fortunately, I have a background in that, so that's helpful. I have a background in branding, that's helpful. I had a lot of the ingredients that made it a lot easier for me.
Because for me, like my product, which is the Liz McMullen Show and Lizzie's Bedtime Stories, I even though it's not a money-related empire or endeavor, I still, branding is my mind. I was like, I want to make it a dynamic experience for the authors. Like the readings, I want you to be the choice, and you're making, all the decisions creative. It's all you. And I want the Liz McMullen Show to have a wide variety of authors. Like I have authors from indie presses and people who self-publish, and I have folks who are from more established houses, and I like really that. Cool. That's really
That's so cool.
That's really important to me, and it's just been luck and happenstance. I meet people on Facebook. People ask to be on the show, or
it could be the angels sending things in your direction.
They're just so wonderful. I know for honest and for truly that my grandmother has looked out for me. There's so many things that have lucked out in terms of like seeing somebody who, it looked like impossible that I'd ever, be able to spend time with this one person, and magically things keep on happening. Though I did tell Grandma there's no need to have another big storm like Superstorm Sandy to get me out of my house and go visit this person. Please, nothing catastrophic again, please.
Yeah, could you find another way, please? Find another way to show me. And in the interest of a mini reading, she's actually with you right now.
Yeah.
Over your right shoulder, in case you're looking for her.
Oh,
your grandmother.
I love her so much. She's been so much a part of me.
That's obvious, and she's with you all the time. She actually sends you signs. I don't know if you see them or not, but she does. Something that was unique to her. There's something that was unique to her that happens for you. It's either a smell or it's a sound. There's something that she does when she's around, so that it's her little way of telling you she's there.
Yeah, I definitely, I wouldn't be able to, tell you what they are, but there are times when I recognize that she's been in play.
Yeah. It may be someone's perfume. It may be the smell of baking. It may be something. There's something she's doing that is deliberate for you. So pay attention. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. I love being, when people are open to that, I love being able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I've always been, I don't know if providence is the right word, but there's just some things that are just so unlikely that they have to have been a part of something bigger than what we can see.
Of course. I love to say that there are no coincidences, and there aren't any, or coincidences are the universe's way of staying anonymous. Mm-hmm. And that's very true. There really are no coincidences. So, the fact that people are drawn to you at a certain time to do your show and it works out for you, that's not happenstance.
So unfortunately, this wonderful time we've been spending together.
I'm so glad we had this time together just to laugh a little while and sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long.
See, you didn't think that you'd have an opportunity to listen to Lynn sing to you, but here, you got to hear first.
And now you're wishing you had.
No, it just reminds me of GCLS and karaoke night and me howling along with you to Build Me Up, Buttercup. So that's
a great song.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Great song.
So what would you like, specifically both about Above Reproach, what would it be a takeaway you'd like a reader to have after reading Above Reproach? What are you hoping that they may see or find in it?
Well, for one thing, I'd like people to open their eyes a little bit more and look around them and ask more questions. Wonder if things are what they really seem to be, or are they not? Get curious. Get curious and pay attention to what's going on in the world around you, because things are not always as they seem. And, the stories that we are told are not always in integrity and true. Mm-hmm. And I would like people to question more. And that would make me very, very happy. So for Above Reproach, just know that not everything is what it appears to be on the surface, and make sure that you take the time to look beyond. I'm not asking you to be paranoid. I don't want you to be paranoid. What I would like you to do is to question and not take things at such face value, and ask yourself if something makes sense to you or it doesn't make sense to you.
I'm on board with you for that. My dad, who teaches history, he said, and he grew up, obviously he's a baby boomer, and he said, oh, you are?
Yes.
There's no way you're a baby boomer.
Oh, yes, I am.
Hot damn.
Hot damn.
You look way too young to be a baby boomer, but I digress.
I really do love you.
But I digress. You can't, no. Anyway, so my father said up until Watergate,
yes,
questioning the president to the degree that we question things these days was unthinkable.
Unheard of.
Unthinkable.
Yeah, it was.
And it was a huge game changer, especially with the way that Watergate, the things involved, the treachery, the, keeping files and whatnot. The American public had no clue what was going on behind the curtain, with very few reasons.
No, we very easily accepted what appeared to be true. And as technology has progressed, it has gotten, I'll put it bluntly, our bullshit detectors have gotten better. Because technology keeps people more honest and makes it harder, in some sense, to be out of integrity and dishonest. And by the way, I was an American history major in college, and my thesis was on Watergate and Richard Nixon, just so you know.
Hot diggity damn. Look at that. It's like how I tell you, there's just so many things.
There's synergy.
Yes, interconnectedness. That's why, one of the funniest things that this happened in one of my political science classes. And I gave my paper, I was talking about my paper about Foucault. and about the spectacle of the scaffold, which, is people, when people were hung or tortured in public, they came for the spectacle, and it was appalling to think of people like having picnics and whatnot around this stuff.
Oh, but they did.
But they did. And then I said that with media and the way that it's used, it's like the renewal.
It's the virtual picnic.
Exactly. It is the renewal of the spectacle of the scaffold. So I had this particular argument that I mentioned in class, and one of my classmates raised her hand and she goes, Liz, that is the most linear, structured, and organized arguments you've ever made. Obviously developed over, what the actual paper was about. But apparently my mind always is very tangential, and I just learned to go with it because some interesting shit happens. It's like being a panster. Some interesting shit happens when my mind starts bonging back and forth.
Fascinating, really.
Fascinating. So we've had a fascinating discussion, you and I.
What I want them to take away. Do you want me to finish with what I want them to take away from All That Lies Within?
Yes, and then that'll be our wrap up.
Okay. What I want folks to take away from All That Lies Within is we are all, each of us, so much more than we appear to be. And allow yourself the freedom to be more than what you think you are. And know that people see you for more than what you see yourself as. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be that, to be all that you are. And to know that there is somebody out there are probably many somebodies out there who really want to know that person. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, I'm piggybacking on that. I have a series on gender and sexuality, and one of the episodes that I'm getting read, well, it's not going to come out until the winter, but it's on body image. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because of how skewed my image of myself was, as opposed to what I call photographic evidence of myself. I was like, I was never fat. I was skinny. I wasn't skinny, but it's like I had a muscular flat stomach. I looked great. But then I felt like I was too big because I'm 5'8", and all I went to an all-girls school, and they were so much smaller, more petite or curvy than I am, and I was straight up and down, and I had all this negative language in my head reinforced by other people in my environment. And I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? And then after college, I cut my hair short, it was spiky, and I have pictures of myself at that time. And I remember thinking, girls go out with me and other things because I'm charming, not necessarily because of my looks, and that my friends, they're better looking than I am and even more charming. And I was more like a hanger-on, so to speak. And then I look at the pictures and I was like, what the hell was wrong with you? Why did you see yourself that way? So when I was reading your book, All That Lies Within, it kind of touched on that directly, because our perceptions of ourselves are not always in line with what reality is, and we tend to be harder or more cruel to ourselves than to those on the outside. And having a friend like Carolyn, being a good reflector for Dara, and having, Rebecca's life change after being with an awful person like Cynthia, like all these kind of things touches on the concept of self and self-image and body image.
And it's something that I struggle with all the time, too. You're not alone. I've always struggled with it.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. When the messages you get are so ingrained in you because they're just pounded into you day after day after day, it's very easily, especially from childhood, to believe those things about yourself. And sometimes it takes somebody holding up a mirror and showing you the truth. And so, in All That Lies Within, we have those mirrors, both in terms of the friendships and in terms of the love relationship that ensues. They are each other's mirror.
Yes.
This is who you really are.
It's a beautiful thing, folks out there. You need to pick up these books for various different reasons, but also because one of the main reasons why you should read this and other work by Lynn Ames is that she will open up your mind and make you think. She will make you feel. And yes, folks, I'm sad to say, she fucking makes you cry.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to send you a box of Kleenex.
You just have such a great heart. And yeah. So I was just like, this woman, like I'm reading, obviously, I was crying during one book and then I'm crying in another book and I'm like, God damn it. But ultimately.
You did not cry in Above Reproach. You did not cry.
I so did.
No!
Yes!
Nobody cries at Above Reproach.
I can't. Well, one of the things I cried about, I can't talk about because it's a spoiler.
I know right where you're going. Yeah,
so I'm not. I've already went there. You and I have had that conversation. We've beamed
I've
it back.
Explained it to you. We've had closure on it. It's all
yes. So thank you.
We've had our kumbaya moment.
I know, kumbaya, my Lord. Consciousness raising. But thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time here.
Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure and a joy.